It's official. After tough negotiations, the European Commission and the UK have agreed a draft text of a political declaration on the ties between the two after Brexit. The declaration now needs to be signed off by EU leaders ahead of a summit set for Sunday in Brussels. Taking to Twitter, the EU Council President Donald Tusk said, "I've been informed it's been agreed at negotiators level and agreed in principle at political level, subject to the endorsement of the leaders." Well, let's go now to our political editor, Darren McCaffrey, for the view from Brussels. Darren, a deal is finally agreed. What happens now?
Yeah, indeed, after what the publication told to that 585-page withdrawal agreement last week, what we've seen leaked, it must be said this morning, is a 26-page future political declaration, which essentially sets out the aspirations for what the European Union and the United Kingdom want to achieve in the future trade between the two blocs. What will be discussed and negotiated during the transition period is really kind of the foundation upon which they will build those negotiations. And while the withdrawal agreement is a legal document, this one is just a political declaration. But let me take you through some of the points that we have seen from this document in the last hour or so. It's envisaged having a trade relationships on goods that is as close as possible, with a view to facilitating the ease of legitimate trade. It also goes on to say that they want ties after Brexit to deliver a level of liberalisation in trade as in services as well beyond the parties' WTO commitments. So that means essentially, quote, close ties. That the transition period, which we know is due to end at the end of 2020, could be extended for up to 1 or 2 years, again, as long as both the UK and the EU decide on it. That during that extension period, Britain will continue paying into the EU budget. Of course, that will be controversial as it will involve billions and billions of euros. That the EU and the UK will aim to conclude new agreements on fisheries by 2020. And they will try to assess the equivalence of laws on financial services by 2020 as well. They will put in place an ambitious customs arrangement, which will make use of all the facilitative arrangements and technologies, according to this draft document. Now, that is interesting in itself because, in a way, it is trying to get around this idea still of the hard border in Ireland, trying to avoid that, trying to use technology to make trade between the United Kingdom and the EU as frictionless as possible. Reading through it, Totes, and I haven't had much time to go through it, it is a very short document, but it's much longer than it was last week. Short, of course, on detail. We would expect that because it's an aspirational document in many regards. It does seem that Theresa May has made some ground, though, on this idea of trying to inject a bit more of her Chequers agenda into that deal. But the question is, of course, will it be enough? She is due to address MPs in an unexpected statement, we believe now, in the House of Commons at 2:30 p.m. London time, 3:30 here Brussels time. Clearly part of her attempt to try and sell that deal. Will that make a difference? Will this political declaration get her over the line at Westminster? Well, we'll have to wait and see. I don't think it will. It might win over some moderates, but there are over 80 Conservative MPs who said that they cannot back the deal as it stands. But this is not officially signed yet. This is still at draft level. It does look now, at least, that it will, though, be signed when the EU 27 plus Theresa May meet here on Sunday, which for what will be, forget about everything else, forget about the draft treaty, a historic moment. It will mark essentially the end of these Brexit negotiations and mark the beginning of the process of Britain leaving the European Union.